Hello and welcome to the video in which I will react to Geography Now Germany, my own country. So this will be interesting, and I hope I can give you some new information or my opinion at least. And yeah, I will try not to be too hard to my own country. I mean, I have many different opinions than probably most people in Germany, or at least a decent amount. But yeah, let's get into the video right now. Without further ado.
All right. Lederhosen, Schnitzel, beer, bratwurst, order, bread and beer, complicated history beer, no humor, EDM, and gummy bears that will kind of like give you diarrhea, but it's like worth it. Ugh, those are such horrible stereotypes that every German is so sick and tired of hearing. One gummy bear?
I mean, the stereotypes are... I mean, every country has its own stereotypes, and I don't think that the German stereotypes are so... I mean, complicated history, I mean, we have a longer history than the United States, for example, yes. But, well, every country has a complicated history, and every country is, anyway, but in Haribo, I mean, I like Haribo, and I don't get paid by Haribo. I mean, I wish I would get paid, but no, I'm not. But anyway, we continue.
It's time to learn geography now!
Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbie. So, we've conquered Belgium's castle, jumped through Denmark's lagoon, danced through France's forest, and now we've made it to the final boss of the EU, Kingpin Germany.
Germany is not the boss of the EU. I mean, sometimes it seems to look like this because certain German politicians and also a lot of the German public thinks this way, that because we have the strongest economy in Europe, and because, I mean, maybe even some people think that we are the boss of the European Union because just because we are German, but many also because we have a strong economy, and they think that's why we are the boss, but we are not. It's a union between all European countries, or it should at least be this way. It is often the way that Germany often decides certain things, but I don't think that it should be this way. Everything should be discussed with all of the European nations, and all should have the same to say into this. The European Union has also its own faults and things which don't run so perfectly well, but maybe I will react to some of these things in other videos.
Level 1, begin. Ah, you know why I'm smiling. Yep, Germany has a lot of territorial anomalies. We'll get into that in a little bit, but first, Germany is located in central Western Europe, bordered by 9 other countries. Don't forget little Luxembourg, with small coasts on the North and Baltic Seas, which they own about 50 small islands. Now, Germany, like the US, is a federal republic which has 16 smaller states, or Bundesländer, each with its own constitution, 3 of which are cities, the capital Berlin, Hamburg, and Bremen, which is actually kind of like 2 cities, including Bremerhaven on the coast, but they kind of act like one entity. Fun side note, Lower Saxony is actually geographically situated further north than regular Saxony.
I mean, about this, I mean, probably many people already mentioned this also in the comment, but the word Nieder in Niedersachsen has a different meaning than just geographically lower, or, I mean, it's translated into Lower Saxony, but Nieder had a different opinion, or it is not meant in the way like lower and higher. It's it has a different meaning in Germany. I mean, in the moment, not exactly sure what meaning, but I know it has a different meaning, and but probably also many people mentioned this in the comments. So, moment. I researched a bit, and I found out what I meant. Also, I already knew before, but now I can also explain it. So the Lower Saxony, I mean, the lower is not in the way of up and down, north and south, but in the way and the one country, I mean, Lower Saxony is lower geographically to the ground, lower, like in a value, and Saxony is more up on the I mean, I don't want to not say a mountain, but it's physically higher, so further away from the Earth core, kind of, than Lower Saxony. That's why it is called Lower, and not because it is more in the north, and not, you see the Lower is in this way, and not in the north-south way meant. Okay, let's continue.
Now let's jump into the fun stuff. Now, we already discussed the Jungholz Quadrupoint and the Vennbahn railway enclaves with Belgium and Austria. However, there's a few more. The entire town of Bussingen am Hochrhein is surrounded by Switzerland, whereas part of the Konstanz is cut off by the Rhine River and surrounded by Switzerland. However, immediately across the river, a small patch of empty land on the German side actually belongs to Switzerland. Finally, they split the island of Usedom with Poland in the north. Germany is interesting because every state in the country has its own distinct culture, dialect, history, food, traditions. I mean, Bavarians will be quite drastically different from Schleswig-Holsteiners. Mecklenburg-Vorpommern will be different from Saarland.
It's funny how he pronounced the German states. I mean, it's okay. It's don't take it harshly or anything like this. He is American, so it's I mean that he even speaks it out in general in German is okay. It's good and nice, but yeah, I will not criticize him for his pronunciation. That's okay. It's just funny.
This all has to do.
I would also sound funny when I would try to pronounce, for example, Vietnamese cities or Vietnamese words or sentences. I learned a bit Vietnamese already. My girlfriend is Vietnamese. By the way, I want to say thank you to you. I mean, now I talked to my girlfriend. She's also one of my subscribers. So, one of the 4 subscribers I already have. Thank you, sweetie. But yeah, when I would pronounce something in Vietnamese, I would also sound funny. So, no, it's okay.
With ancient and recent history. Basically, in the quickest way I can summarize this, Germanic tribes, Roman wars, Charlemagne, 3 kingdoms, this guy marries an Italian, creating a whole new mess called the Holy Roman Empire made up of 300 smaller separate kingdoms, states, and dukedoms, which had nothing to do with Romans.
We already had, I also had this in school, and I think that most Germans have this in school at some way or another. But yeah, as an American, I understand that this looks kind of confusing, and I like the way he's doing this in this fast way, and yeah, I like it.
Teutonic Knights, Brandenburgs became Prussia, Habsburgs became Austrians, Lithuanians and Poles made their own thing, whereas the Hungarians joined the Austrians. Wars, battles, Napoleon comes over and messes everything up, and finally, German nationalism surges, and in 1871, Otto von Bismarck creates the first proto-German unified state.
I have the feeling that many people in the world, or maybe also just Germans, I'm not sure, hate Napoleon, and I mean, it's kind of the thing, the kind of hate which always existed between France and Germany. I mean, it's not today. It's not such a big thing, but in history it was. And I mean, Napoleon came here and made also many good things. He separated kind of state and religion a bit, so. There was also something like a marriage without the church after he was there. So, yeah, I mean, from a military point of view and so on. I mean, I don't like wars, and he made wars, but there were also many good things he did for the countries.
And then they're all like, oh dang, we came late to this game. We gotta scramble for some colonies. And that's how all of these countries at
That's kind of interesting here. Papua New Guinea or parts of it, Namibia, Cameroon, Togo, and yes, Kenya, Tanzania. That's interesting. That's interesting, at least. Yeah, and some of these islands in the Pacific. Okay.
one point spoke German. Oh, and also keep in mind, like 300 years before this, a German banking company obtained colonial rights to Venezuela for like 20 years. They were looking for the lost city of El Dorado. So technically, you can kind of say Germans colonized the Americas, but it wasn't like a nationalized conquest thing. Fast forward even more, and then you get World War I, the monarchy ends, Treaty of Versailles, they lose land, Nazis come in, World War II, Germany splits in 2 for about 40 years, and then finally, we get the Germany we have today. East Germany, consisting of these states, is today still quite different from the rest of Germany as it was first occupied and influenced by the Soviet Union. They are generally not as well off economically as
I mean, it was definitely the case, but I think nowadays it's not such a big thing anymore, so the differences between East and West are not so big anymore, and I mean, East Germany. That's a different topic. I will maybe talk about this in another video. I am not like many Germans in the way that I hate and dislike everything that East Germany or the German Democratic Republic have done. I mean, they stood for communism. They tried it at least. That's something I have to give it to them. And I thought maybe they made some mistakes, but that's another video. That's another topic. But I'm not a typical German in this way, or typical in general Western Hemisphere. I mean, anyway, I don't hate East Germany. Or I mean, I never lived in a time when they were also there. So sadly, I mean, I wish there would be a communistic Germany.
The rest of the country, as you can still see the blocky Soviet-style buildings sprawled throughout the regions. In fact, the city of Berlin was split in half, and the west side was actually an enclave of West Germany, only accessible by train and highway. You can even see from a satellite image the divide.
That's interesting, and I don't know if that's. I think it's true. I mean, it must be at some point. I don't know if it is still true, but I can imagine this. It don't seem to be absurd, but that's interesting. From the no, there's a picture from the like helicopter also, and then yeah.
East Berlin still uses the yellowish tinted sulfur vapor light bulbs, whereas the west still uses fluorescent and mercury arc white tinted light bulbs. Now the funny thing is, although Berlin is the largest city in Germany, the busiest airports are actually Frankfurt, Munich, Dusseldorf, with Berlin Tegel ranking at number 4. Otherwise, some top notable landmarks and spots would be the Brandenburg Gate,
the Brandenburg Gate,
Berlin Tegel ranking at number 4. Otherwise, some top notable landmarks and spots would be the Brandenburg.
Yes, I don't know if I have been there. I think I was, but I think I was much younger, and I don't remember right now. But it looks kind of impressive. But when I then see this gate, I also think about the Nazis marching through this with torches and no. But I mean, I think it's a nice, interesting place to be. I would like to see it in person one day, but yeah.
Gate, the Valhalla, Cologne Cathedral.
I mean, when I watched once a reaction from an American who reacted to this video, he also mentioned that it's kind of impressive how large and how enormous this kind of churches are. But I mean, for maybe in America there are not so many so big churches, but it is kind of familiar. I mean, not all of the churches are so big, of course, but it's not absurd to see such old places, and I mean, probably just because we have an older history than the United States, and yeah. I mean, I mostly just saw reaction from Americans to this, or British to Germany geography. Now, continue.
Ulminster Church, the tallest in the world, the Berlin Victory Column, and hundreds of castles all over, the most notable one probably being Neuschwanstein, the concept behind Disney's Cinderella Castle. Germany also has over 400 zoos, more than any other country in the world, and of course everybody knows about the Autobahn, the
highway system, the Autobahn. Yeah, there's a lot I have to say about this.
Highway system in which if you see this sign, it means there's no speed.
I mean, it's true. This signs have this meaning, and unless there's a tunnel or at the border, of course, there are not so many speed limits, just sometimes regional and like for tunnels and so. But I mean, I'm not proud of this. It's not such a good thing as he seems. I mean, I don't know what his opinion is, but in some videos, I mean, in some reactions and also in this video, it looks like it is something positive, but it is not so positive. And maybe he's just neutral to it, but there are many accidents happening through the that all drive so fast and then hit each other or hit a tree or the wall or innocent people. I don't know, but so it's not such a good thing, and there are often this kind of crosses at the side of the street or shields with signs, shields where there's messages like "Don't look on your phone while driving" or other things. I mean, probably these things exist also in other countries, but here, and Germany is one of the few countries in which there's not a general speed limit, and I think we should have one, and it would be much better, and less accidents would happen, and also less carbon. I think it's carbon. I mean, less CO2 would be into the atmosphere. Then also, I think it's also for the environment. Yeah, let's continue with the video.
Limit, and it's like that for a huge portion of the roadway. And no wonder, considering how vast and wide those cultivated countrysides can get. Time for level 2! Okay, think of it this way. In Germany, the more down you go, the more up you move. Basically, Germany lies on the Atlantic shelf in the north.
And that also confirms what I said earlier. Lower Saxony is more the north, so it is lower physically. And Saxony, which was like here, I don't know if my cursor is visible, but moment.
North that start.
I think my cursor may be visible, but even if not, when you go from the arrow down to the border, to the end of Germany, there is Saxony, and it is physically higher, because he also said as more down you move, as more up you move. So Lower Saxony is called Lower Saxony because it is physically lower and not more south.
Starts with the mud flats in the North Sea. Seriously, this island right here is accessible only for a few hours by foot until the tide comes and floods everything. Then everything just kind of creeps up into the Alps in the south by Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg, with the highest mountain, Zugspitze, located right along the border with Austria. Kind of like France, Germany is filled with a vast irrigating network of rivers like the Spree, Elbe, Weser, Rhine, and of course the mighty Danube that starts here. About a third of the land is arable and another third is woodland, and after millennia of civilization, Germans have cultivated the crap out of their country. Most agriculture, of course, happens in the North Flat Plains and the central regions of the country, which is, by the way, kind of like Europe's tornado.
I mean, he says that there's more tornadoes in Germany than anywhere else in Europe, and maybe that's the case. I'm not sure. I have no data, but I mean, I have never seen a tornado, and at least never such a thing like in the picture. There are storms, of course, sometimes, but nothing like this, and I think it is much less than in the United States, but I have no data. But as I said, I have never seen something like this before in my life.
Alley. Due to its position sandwiched between the Arctic blasts of Scandinavia and the moist, warm jet streams of the Mediterranean below, Germany can be an atmospheric war zone in the summer. There are more tornadoes on average in Germany than any other country in Europe. Speaking of flat farmland, Germany is the world's largest rye and hop producer. Germans abso-freaking-lutely love their bread. There are over
yeah, I can confirm this. I mean, I have heard from many other countries in the world, and the most don't have such a enormous variety of breads, especially more darker breads, and I mean white bread, something like also baguette in France. Something like this there's more often also in other countries, but this darker bread is more like an Eastern European and Russian and maybe German thing, but not so much in in the United States, probably also in Africa, I'm not sure, but I think so, and also Southeast Asia or other Asian countries.
300 different kinds of bread in the country, more types than any other country in the world, and almost every meal incorporates some kind of slice or small bun or Brötchen of bread. Hast du gluten-free? Nein! Germans are heavy meat eaters, specifically in pork. They basically know every possible way to cook a pig. Over 50 different types of sausage exist alongside schnitzels, rouladen, sauerbraten, Schweinsachse, and at a big party you might find Spanferkel. Beer reigns supreme all over as the third largest consumers of beer after the Czech Republic, even their president has no problem with public intoxication, and Austria. Germany is world-renowned for their beer, which by the way follows the Reinheitsgebot rule in which they are only allowed to use water, hops, malt, and sometimes yeast. Nonetheless, about 1,300 breweries exist, pumping out over 5,000 brands. The oldest continuously existing brewery in the world, started by Benedictine monks in 1040 AD, can be found here. Germany takes the environment very seriously, and for the past 2 decades has been going on a major green revolution. As of today, they have the largest installed solar power capacity and green infrastructure practices like home-installed turbines.
And we also don't have any nuclear plants anymore. I think it's called nuclear plants, the English word. Atomkraftwerke. Nuclear plants anymore. I don't think that we have a few, but they are all on the way to be turned off. And I think by 2030 they should be all off. And yeah, in contrast to other European countries like France and I think also the UK not, but other European countries invest much more in nuclear plants than Germany, and I mean we also already stepped out of this. That's good.
Turbines and solar panels have seen a huge surge in the past 10 years. Forests dominate the southern regions where the landscape gets hillier and mountainous, the most famous one being the Black Forest or the Schwarzwald in Baden-Württemberg.
This pictures here are very beautiful. I would love to go there someday. I was never in the Black Forest Schwarzwald, but I would like to go there someday.
Hillier and mountainous, the most famous one being the Black Forest or the Schwarzwald in Baden-Württemberg. Deer, bears, boar, foxes, badgers, and the national animal, the eagle, can be found thriving in these parts. Nonetheless, economically, Germany is known mostly for their exceptional engineering and industry production. Companies we've all heard of like Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, Audi, Telecom, Nivea, DHL, Bosch, Adidas, Puma! Adidas, Puma! Yeah, it's kind of like the whole Biscoito Bolacha thing from Brazil.
And to this, I mean, we have a lot of big companies in the world, and which are very famous, like Volkswagen, blah blah blah. Here I already mentioned them, but I mean, these companies are also known for exploiting countries, especially poor countries in Africa, Asia, South America, Central America. So I mean, there's a darker side also to this kind of positive things, which I mean helped us after the Second World War, but yeah. There's also this negative part, like the explosion.
Remember? Well, we have mudflats, tornadoes, pork, beer, mountains. All that's missing is people. Level 3.
My fellow German beings. Let's see.
Fun little side note, in Germany, this is 3, not this. Now, if the EU was a family, Germany would kind of be like the dad who got out of rehab, reconciled with his wife and kids, and is taking his new life very seriously as he is haunted by the demons of his past every day. First of all, the country has about 82 million people and is the most populated in the EU, second most in Europe after Russia, and has the 4th largest nominal GDP in the world. About 80% of the country
I mean, to the GDP, I mean, all the time when I see people comparing countries only, or mostly about the GDP, and they think that the GDP really different. I mean, really show how good a country and how good economy is. But I mean, the GDP that is only for profit. I mean, it doesn't matter in how you make your profit, how you increase the value of your company. The GDP will go up. But if you do something what is good for the people or for the for your employment and for the environment, it doesn't matter. It is not inside the GDP. So if a country has a high GDP, it does not have to mean that this country has a good functioning economy where everyone is happy and it's also in a good relation to the environment. So it's just something to the GDP in general.
Identifies as ethnically German, 12% other Europeans, mostly Polish, Italian, Dutch, and so on. Turks make up about 3.5%, Asians at 2%, and the rest are made up of other groups like Africans and Americans. Also, they use the euro, they use the C and F type outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Germany is without a doubt a global powerhouse. It is the strongest economy in the EU and makes up about 16% of the union's population. It's the 3rd largest exporter and importer of goods in the world. After the United States, Germany is also the 2nd most popular global migration destination. Germany experiences a high standard of living, tuition-free universities, if you get accepted that is, a mostly government-subsidized universal healthcare system, about a quarter is still privatized.
And there are some people, some political parties in this country which want to private everything. I mean, they want to abolish or stop the public healthcare and make everything private. I mean, that is kind of stupid. I mean, look at the United States and you see that this doesn't work. I mean, I often criticize my own country in many ways, but we have some good social standards, and also the healthcare is public, and that's good. But yeah, I mean, we have still a lot to improve in many ways, and I think everything should be public, and there should not be any private healthcare, because it just makes difference in the society and says you are more you are worth more than somewhere else, and people who are not rich or don't have enough money are like kind of less worse, and that's something like thinking that I don't like. So
and state pension for retirement at age 65. Now, when it comes to language, things get a little tricky. Each state kind of has their own type of German. However, to get by, most Germans learn how to speak Hochdeutsch or High German.
and I think the general region where the best High German is spoken is around central Germany somewhere. Yeah. In the as more north as more south you go, there are more dialects, and
which is the standard dialect. The European Charter, however, protects the minority languages of Frisian, Danish, Romani, Sorbian, which is like a Slavic-based language used along the Czech-Polish border, and Plattdeutsch, or Low German, which has similarities to Dutch and is typically used by the Amish and Mennonite communities across the world. In terms of regional distinctions, though, Germany is kind of divided into 5 cultural areas: Rhineland, East and Mitteldeutschland, Norddeutschland, Baden-Württemberg, and Bavaria. Rhineland is on the west side and has a culture somewhat more influenced by France, more Catholics, Carnival celebrations are huge out here.
But in this image, you see he mentioned 5 different regions, but there's a 6th region for Berlin.
East and Mitteldeutschland, Norddeutschland, Baden-Württemberg, and Bavaria. Rhineland is on the west side and has a culture somewhat more influenced by France, more Catholics, Carnival celebrations are huge out here. East and Middle Germany was the part that used to be its own country for 40 years as it was influenced by the Soviets. Sorbians can also be found here too. Northern Germany has a coastal sea culture that identifies closer with Denmark and the Netherlands. They are also known for being kind of quiet and reserved. Baden-Württemberg has an interesting Swabian culture where they speak a dialect so thick that only about 40% of it is intelligible to other Germans. And then you have Bavaria, which is where the Americanized, perpetuated stereotypes about Germany came from, with lederhosen, dirndls, half-timber, beer houses, and cuckoo clocks. For the record, Germans are sick of those stereotypes. It's like saying all Americans are cowboys with guns and horses. Speaking of...
But, I mean, with guns, they are alright, or I think there are more weapons in the United States than there are people. So, there's something about this, but, I mean, about every stereotype there's something about, and there are probably also many Americans which don't have any weapon at all and are against all the crazy shit with weapons which is going on there.
Stereotypes. Some of the stereotypes in Germany include things like Saxons being very indecisive, Berliners are always bragging about themselves, Swabians are stingy, Bavarians drink too much, Hessians talk too much, Holsteiners don't talk enough, and so on. Words differ from regions too. For example, in High German, you would say Auf Wiedersehen, but in Bavarian, you would say Fiat die Gott. In Kölsch, you would say Tschüss, and in Rhineland, you might say Ajus. And there's so many compound words that get really long and complicated, like Rindfleisch, Etikettierungs-, Überwachungsaufgaben, Übertragungsgesetz.
Yeah, he already wrote this. It's technically not a word anymore. I mean, I used to hear this word myself, but I also heard that it is not anymore a word. But yeah, he also have written this, so yeah, it's right.
This is because many words are mehrtudig, or ambiguous words, that are kind of elongated to give off an extensive meaning.
Yeah, for example, you could say Flugzeug, airplane, and then you could say Spielzeug, toy, Flugzeug, Spielzeug, Fahrzeug, like a vehicle, and so the only thing which difference is always the first part of the word, like Flug, Fahr, and Spiel, and Zeug is always the same, and or Tür, you can say Tür, door, and then Haustür, front door, Haustürschlüssel, the key of the front door. Also, and you can add more and more different words to it and specify it so more and more. And in German, it's technically possible, and so you can create kind of your own new words always. And that's probably because of this ambitious thing.
Germans have very vivid imaginations and make up words for everything. Like my favorite word, Backpfeifengesicht. Not this time. By the way, for the record, this letter makes a double S.
Yeah, it's I like this letter, and it's funny. It always confuses other people. People from not Germany.
Sound. However, spelling reformers have tried to decrease the usage of this letter in recent years, which has led to some protests. Germans also love dubbing everything from foreign.
Yeah, many movies in German are just terrible. When you have once watched an anime in German, you know what I mean. And I mean it's probably similar for other countries, but I just don't like it. I mostly watch everything in the original, with the English subtitles.
Media into German. Some like this, some don't, but either way, it's here to stay. About 60% of the country identifies, at least nominally, as Christians, split between Protestants and Catholics. Germany was even the
I'm not part of any church. I'm an artist. Yeah, but many are at least technically part of one of the two big Christian religions.
birthplace of the Protestant Reformation, split from the Catholic Church by Martin Luther. Otherwise, the rest are mostly agnostic or irreligious, with a noticeable community of Muslims, mostly from the huge Turkish and Middle Eastern communities, at about 5%, as well as a few Jews, Buddhists, and Hindus rounding up the remainder 1%. To kind of get a feel of what it's like to be German, you kind of have to understand where they've come from.
Now we come to the interesting part with the Second World War, I think.
After World War II, they kind of had a lot of work to do. However, it wasn't until the mid-50s and early
I think this was also probably mentioned in the comments of his video and also in other videos already, but Wirtschaftswunder, you write it in a different way. It's there are spelling mistakes in the word. But I think it's not so important also, but yeah.
60s that the Wirtschaftswunder, or economic wonder, happened, to which almost everybody got to work. Basically, this guy envisioned and implemented a social market economy combined with free market capitalism alongside socialist policies that established fair competition in a welfare state. GDP increased by 80%, investments by 120%, labor forces were utilized to the maximum. Things started to get better. In Germany, all children are corralled into general public schools until age 10, when they are given the option to enroll in 3 different types of middle schools. Gymnasium, geared towards focusing on higher linguistic, mathematic, and science fields for universities. Realschule, a middle ground type of school, and Hauptschule.
And there's a fourth type of school, the Gesamtschule, where people with all of the three, I mean, after primary school, you kind of get a recommendation for one of the 3 school types, Gymnasium, Hauptschule, or Realschule, and there's also the Gesamtschule, in which all of the other 3 type of schools, or people with the recommendations for the 3 type of schools, can go, and I was on such a school. So it is also a 4th type, where everything is mixed.
A school that is geared towards helping kids that seem to show promise in specific vocation or trades. Germany also has the largest music market in the EU and the 3rd in the world after the US and Japan. They love preserving their heritage and culture through music and art. In fact, there are around 130 national orchestras, mostly supported by public money, and artists get a 50% reduction in health insurance through a special type of offer in the legal system. One thing that still kind of supposedly maintains itself in Germany is the mindset of Vergangenheitsbewältigung. Totally butchered that, which kind of translates to a lingering sense of guilt from the past. Germans have reportedly some of the lowest levels of national pride, and unlike
I think I wish it would be the case. I think it's not entirely true. I mean, there is a lot of people in Germany are crazy about their own country and think it's better than anything else. And I mean, I think that these people are idiots, and I don't give a fuck about my own country. I mean, I like to live here and so on, but I don't like the country. I like to live here. It's not that I would go to war for my own country. If my own country would be attacked, I would just go somewhere else. I don't fight for any country, and I think nation to be proud on your own country is something very stupid. I mean, neither I'm also not feeling a big part of guilt. I mean, I feel a responsibility for trying and working towards that something like the Holocaust never happens again. But I'm not guilty of anything what happened with Nazis, but I feel a responsibility to try to get such a thing never to happen again. But I mean, it is probably much lower than in other countries, much lower than in the United States, and that's something good. That's something where I'm proud on to be German, because I mean, I'm proud that this thing is not such a big thing in Germany. I'm not proud on Germany, but yeah, I'm not proud to be German, but I like it that it is this way, and I wish it would be this way in other countries too. I think in the end we should all unite into one big country, and I mean the United Nations. I think this should be something with far more rights and powers, and a world parliament and such a thing. But yeah.
Unless if you're at a soccer game, chances are you will almost never see anyone holding a German flag or waving it in any kind of like patriotic setting. It's weird, but it's kind of how things are.
You monster!
They've made great strides to move on from the past. Nazi flags and Mein Kampf are incredibly illegal items to own in Germany, and they even have a rule, the Volksverhetzung, which basically says you cannot talk trash by denying the past atrocities. Some people say this infringes on free speech, others say it's good because it solidifies truth. Otherwise, some notable Germans throughout history include Charlemagne, although he was a Frank, but I guess it kind of counts. Albrecht, Dürer, David Friedrich, Gutenberg, Bach, Beethoven, Karl Benz, Albert Einstein, although Americans would like to claim that he moved to the US and became an American, Johannes Kepler, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Friedrich Schiller, Michael Schumacher, Alex von Humboldt, and of course Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels.
Yeah, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Not Friedrich Engels was a British guy, but maybe they were also both German. And but I like it. I like them, of course. Communism. I mean, why do you think I wear this T-shirt? But yeah, let's continue.
Co-founded Marxism. But one thing Germans do best would have to be diplomacy. To this day, the German passport holds the most visa-free nations out of any other country in the world, just beating Sweden. Therefore, you can kind of conclude that Germany kind of knows how to relate to people. Let's find out how in the final round, level 4. Germany knows how to make friends. They have over 220 diplomatic missions abroad and over 350 honorary consuls and have an incredibly high position of authority in the EU. Their closest African friend would probably be Namibia. As a former German colony way back in the 19th century, Namibia held on relations, and to this day, German is still a recognized language in Namibia. Germans have been supporting and sharing ties both economically and ideologically for over a century. India and South Korea are really close friends in Asia. India supported both East and West Germany during the Cold War, and after reunification, they were like, woohoo! Even better! And Germany is to South Korea what Japan is to France. They love to piggyback off of each other's ideas and cultures, especially in the automotive industry. Many South Koreans were sent to Germany after the Korean War to work abroad and study, and Germans have been growing in fascination with visiting South Korea. The US is probably the closest ally outside of the EU. About 30% of Americans claim German heritage, and after World War II, the Marshall Plan allowed the US to give post-war aid to Germany, which helped kickstart the economic recovery. Germany was a key figure in the formation of the State of Israel after World War II, which after the Holocaust left an
I mean, it's a good thing that we did this, but I think we should recognize Palestine as a state, and we should also support Palestine more and support that there's a peace between those two countries finally after such a long period of time.
Obligation to invest in the building up of a Jewish community. Turkey is probably the closest Middle Eastern ally, as the Turks make up the largest Asian demographic in Germany, although many of them may or may not also identify as Kurds. But since Kurds don't have a state of their own, they usually go under Turkish passports when immigrating and are documented as such. Their best friends, however, would probably be literally all their neighbors. The thing is, Germany is kind of like Bosnia and Herzegovina, in which by default they kind of get friends based off of the regional alliances. Bavarians get along with Austrians, Baden-Württembergs get along with Switzerland, East Germany has good relations with the Slavic countries, the Rhine states love Belgium, Luxembourg, and France, and the north side loves the Netherlands and Denmark. France, though, is kind of like the trophy wife of Germany, as the two have had an angry start, but then eventually fell in love and worked together beautifully. France is like the beautiful, flashy spokesperson for the EU that stands in the spotlight as Germany stands in the background, managing all the money and logistical work. In conclusion, although Germanic peoples have existed for thousands of years, an actual unified German state didn't appear until kind of recently, and the brief time that they've been around, they've kind of gone through some of the most intense world revolutionizing historical events possibly imagined. Yet they've come out working hard and building their way up to become a world superpower. You gotta give it to them. There's something about the Germans. And with that, final boss level complete. Stay tuned. Another African state Germany has ties to, Ghana, is coming up next.
All in all, I have to say, I mean, I watched the video a lot of times before, so it's not the first time, but it's a good video. He of course made some mistakes, but I mean, it doesn't matter so much. In general, it's a good video, and I like it a lot. And I also recommend to you to subscribe for him. Also subscribe for me, please. I would really like it. I like to make videos, and yeah. So please subscribe for my channel and support me through this, and like the video if you want. Yeah. I think that's pretty much everything I have to say to this to my country. I mean, there's a lot more I could say, and I will react probably also to other videos in the future, and also the Bundesländer also explained by him. But for now, it's everything I have to say, and maybe I will make more political videos at other times. But right now, yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching.